Clash Royale.
Welcome back, guys, to SPL here at the Nexon Arena. We have finished 2 of the games of a potential 7 here in our best of 7 of the night between SKT and Afreeca. Now we need to see who's coming out next for SKT.
That's the question on everyone's minds. I think the game plan for Afreeca was to have the snipe for innovation, then hope to mirror matchup versus Classic on Frost, where you think it happened in one of those longer games. We saw already some solid play out of Super yesterday in the matchup. Zone did defeat him, but it wasn't a bad game by Super from any means, and he prepared specifically for that matchup for a long time. So I think they're hoping that Classic comes out here.
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. You know, Frost is not a bad map for Protoss as well. Would they use Classic against Super? I'm not sure. Classic hasn't had the most pristine PvP. Of course, maybe they want to send Super into like a PvZ, throw out someone like Sue here. You know, Sue also be quite nice on this map. He can play a good macro game, but also if they're at, you know, closer spawns, he can also put on the aggression. Yeah, I'd say either Classic or Sue, because Dark is going to come out later. And in my mind, you know, I have these 4 players that I think we have to see from both teams, and I think that's the top 4 for SKT.
I don't know if we're going to see Sue today. I'm not so sure. It's like between Sue and Dream, right? But let's see who it's going to be. The reveal is going to happen. It is Classic. I mean, this is kind of one of those things where I think this plays into Afreeca's hands. I think this is what they wanted. And if I were the SKT coach, even knowing that, I would have sent Classic. That's why I was thinking he was the guy, because this then leads into Dust Towers if he wins this, because you really have to think about the whole map list, because the dream is to get multi-kills. You want to get 2 kills with every player you send out, so you think about the first map and the second one, obviously the first getting priority. So if he wins here, Dust Towers is the next map, and it's a good position for Classic there as well. So I like this choice, but I think Afreeca is 1 step ahead. I think they kind of are trying to get SKT to play into their hands with these player picks.
Essentially, the most important part, as you said, was Super winning that first game. And the fact that he did win that first game, it's almost like SKT is forced into their hands. That's really good for Afreeca here. I mean, SKT definitely the favorites, but can Afreeca upset Super going into a second game up against Classic? Up here in the top right, in the orange for SK Telecom T1, it is Classic.
And his opponent cross spawns at the bottom left. It is Super. All right, this could be a potential big momentum swing for the Freaks if Super gets this multi-kill. Then he, as the Protoss, has reign over Dust Towers, and that might force a weird pick because they don't want to use a Terran there versus him. Innovation already defeated Dream.
Maybe they send out Zone or something. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, Zerg also not. I mean, maybe someone like Sue could take a game against Super on that map.
The other thing, too, to keep in mind is if they send Zone out as a sniper, he's very unlikely to get 2 kills. And that's risky when, after Super wins this, the Freaks are up. If you trade 1-to-1, trying to snipe too often or go too hard, it can be risky, and they're going to have to rely on a strong anchor. And I think if Classic fails here, which I mean, might just crush Super, we'll wait and see. Zone already did yesterday. If Classic falls here, I think the anchor for this is going to have to be Dark. He's going to have to bring it back, and we'll have to see. I mean, obviously there's still 2 players left for both teams. And cross spawns here. First scout goes to Classic. Sometimes you can tell a lot about what a player's plans are based on whether they scout or not on a 4-player map, because the player who scouts, you might think watching it means that the player who scouts is more worried about something, but oftentimes he wants to know if his build can be used versus what their opponent's doing. But also, cross spawns versus horizontal and vertical spawns is a huge amount of difference. Stalker builds are just simply not as good when you have to walk across the map with them. So once he knows that it's cross spawns, you know, he's going to make that different choice perhaps about what he wants to do. Zealot Stalker here. Probably the Zealot will get canceled, I'd imagine. Yeah, he goes into the Stalker. He does it despite the fact that they are cross positions. He doesn't know 100% on that yet, but seeing that probe is a pretty big tell. And he does go in and confirm and sends the probe out right away. Does not want to lose it.
And, I mean, the thing about the Stalkers, too, is that they're definitely the more defensive pick, and you do see the Nexus coming out here for Classic first. So maybe he just wanted to go defensive Stalkers, get 2 out, follow up with the 3rd one after the Nexus, and just try to play the macro game, because as long as he can survive against someone like Super, even though Classic he hasn't had the most pristine results or the best PvP, he can still, I'm sure he's still got a lot of confidence in himself. I mean, he has so many results, it's insane. I'm sure his team is all behind him and they really support him and look up to him. So he's also one of the older players on the team. He's born in '91. So if you think about all that, I mean, he's definitely someone who's going to have a lot of confidence in himself coming into this one.
He's
and
also
ready to go into that macro game.
I mean, he's a champion of 2 leagues. This is pretty rare. Even in StarCraft 1, it's not that common. Only the super dominant players had that. He has that. He is massively the favorite. Oh, a Sentry comes out a bit too late to block that. He sees, what he actually scouts there is that Classic's building placement is a little bit weird and could actually be punished under different circumstances. Very unlikely here. Probes here.
He actually commits to the shade.
Oh, you know
the
what?
Stalkers coming in.
Stalkers too, yeah. I don't think he's going to get one, so it ends up being a net positive for Classic, I guess, arguably there. But
I mean, at the end of it all, he did just lose 1 Adept, so definitely not a great trade for Super.
Tight walled the ramp there for a second, too.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it was another unit there. The shade comes in. I think he's actually going to be pretty happy with this trade at the end of all things. Oh, the probe block. I think that's what he was looking for with those probes earlier. Double kill there, and Super goes for a quick glaive build with a Warp Prism. This is the kind of build that you could tell he prepared for Classic specifically already today. I think the Freaks are actually making really smart choices, not only today, but their map choices they did yesterday. Strategically, they're coming into this on fire, and I'm pretty impressed, but we'll see if this build works out. There's definitely not going to be something Classic has expectations he's about to run into. And with 2 sentries being warped in, I guess those are back at home. See what he does. This is just going to be the initial pressure, but I think the follow-up with the early glaives could really allow him to control this game and take a faster 3rd.
And look at the build of Classic. He's getting that Twilight Council, and he's already placed a proxy pylon in the bottom right, so it looks like DTs. You know, it looks like it. Let's see if he commits to the Dark Shrine over here. Maybe he wants to get out the Warp Prism first.
Got inspired by Davies' new Blink DTs last night.
So yeah, they have Blink already, right?
By the way,
they're still pretty strong.
4 more gateways. He's really ramping it up. I was thinking this was either going to be heavy pressure. Oh, it's storm drops.
Okay.
I was thinking this is going to be heavy pressure or a, you know, like a poke at the front while he takes a 3rd base. But with all these gates, I'm starting to really get the impression this is going to be an all-in. Although, as I said, he gets a Forge and the Temple Archives. This is not common, guys, what we're seeing here. So, it's possible that... It's possible that he wants to feed back the Mothership Core. I'm not even kidding. And then, you know, go to the front and try to break that without any overcharges. That would be really
seen
greedy.
That before, but not the best build, not the safest build, I should say. Storm is going to be the research here, of course, as well as 4 gateways coming up. I feel like with the kind of build that Classic went for and the lack of units, maybe if Super actually committed to a crazy all-in with Resonating Glaives, it would have worked. But I mean, we can always try to predict builds and what is going to happen, but these players are thinking about it as the game is going on. Maybe something that Super saw tipped him off. He's like, oh, this isn't going to work. I need to transition.
I think you're right, and I think the thing he didn't see, or rather than what he saw, is that there was no 3rd Nexus. And he's like, okay, well, do I really want to crash into a 2-base on 2-base myself? I think he was thinking maybe we would be seeing that 3rd Nexus coming up for Classic. Sick deny right there. That is actually huge. That he stops that Nexus from getting planted.
He's even got 1 other Adept at the other location, too. That's a really nice touch by Super.
I'm really impressed with Super's play right now. Storm's about to finish. He doesn't have Templar with energy in position to storm right away. Oh, actually, no, I think maybe that Prism does have them, in fact.
Yeah, let me
check that. It's either Adepts or...
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so they are ready to go. Oh! Double kill. Oh, you're going to grab these, but he's distracted. And Storms go down. No pull.
No pull. A
2
tiny
probes got
pull.
pulled.
Yeah, 9 probes essentially for free there, outside of all the tech, obviously in the High Templar. And now this is a response we see a lot. The second they see the Storm drop, they move across the map. They're like, okay, here we go.
It's like
I need to kill him right now, okay?
Yeah,
but,
I mean, you committed all those resources to Storm drops. So the Storms are going to be useful on the defense.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, the Storm is just going to keep coming back. That's a harass that you just really can't kill.
And I think the reason that Classic went for this build is specifically because they're cross spawns. Like, look at how long it takes Super to get over here and attack. And Classic is going to have the defensive position. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to easily hold this off. But let's see. I mean, he's going to use Storms against Adepts, not something that you see very often.
Ooh, cancels most of the shades. This is a sick move. We don't see this very often, just kind of ideas like this. I mean, it doesn't work out, but the threat there was quite real. Super does have the faster base, and the Storm drops actually never hit him again, and he's on even probe. So I guess perhaps he doesn't have to commit to this. And if he realizes that and just backs off, he could just accept his economic lead. Just going to show shades here. I don't think he's going to commit.
He might do the same thing as last time, yeah. He even canceled that 1 extra. That's so cool.
He's like, actually, I only need 2 for this.
Yeah.
2 can one-shot a probe.
Snipes 3 and trades there. Nice little trade. And one thing to mention is that Classic, he doesn't like upgrades in this matchup. He doesn't get attack and defense upgrades. He just goes for other stuff. Whereas Super really likes to favor getting upgrades here. You can see he got +1 already and +2. He's about 1/3 of the way done. So Classic does need to be careful. Part of the reason that Classic has more units is because of this as well.
Super is outplaying him right now, man. I'm starting to get pretty hyped. Like, he's tricked Classic into thinking this is a huge push and he needs to protect himself and die, or he's going to die, whereas in reality, Super's army was, for the most of that time, significantly smaller than Classic's, and he still found damage while buying time to have his 3rd base up. Now Classic's starting to realize, oh, okay, I see what's going on. I need to attack you now. I need to counterattack. He has Storms available, so Adepts will die to that very quickly.
Let's see if Super commits here. He's going to eat a lot of damage from that Storm, in fact. And the Adepts shade away here, but more and more Storms coming down.
There's so many Immortals here, but all their barriers are popped by 1 single Archon. And he's trying to kite around here. That's the better angle. Immortals are, they have decent range, but they already used that barrier. 1 more is coming in here, but Classic shades in. I think Super underestimated this push and will be punished for it.
Yeah, the Storm's doing so much damage to the Adepts. The super high number of Adepts that Classic had as well. I don't care how many Immortals you have, Super. The Adepts are going to win in the end if you have no other supporting units. And there you go. Classic is going to close out this game. Super is going to have to GG out.
I mean, I do feel like this was a beautiful game by Super. Really well played. But, StarCraft 2 is a game where no matter what plan you had or how well you played it, you might just lose to 1 push like this.
He's like leaving it alive. He's just like, okay, get out of my game, man. Your Nexus is dead.
You know what? This is a great game by Classic 2, and he really did realize what was going on and punished Super. Super made a few micro mistakes. GG. But I have to say, he got the kill on Innovation, and he played a very solid game versus Classic. For his own personal feels, I would be very happy with how those last 2 games went.
Yeah, I mean, he gave it his best shot. As you said, he kind of did his job. But let's talk a little bit about Classic's build on that map. I mean, the Storm drop at cross spawns, you can defend really easily. And I think I was talking with you. I think me and you were casting, and we were trying to see like what was going to be the next step in PvP meta, because obviously with Adepts coming in full force, you get Resonating Glaives. Classic had like 35 Adepts in that fight. No joke. So Storm is fantastic against that. If PvP begins to go into that kind of high Adept count and you get enough Storms, you can kill all those Adepts really, really easily. So it's not just the Storm drops that Classic was going for, but actually bringing Storm into his composition for PvP. And this is the first time, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong,
Korea,
that we've seen this in Korea. And that's huge. I mean, that we're kind of seeing the meta develop for this matchup through this one game.
It's evolution, absolutely. You can even see, like, this is the kind of shot that I love to see, where you can tell Classic is a little bit upset with his performance in that game, because he knows that for a moment there, he was totally duped by what Super was doing. He was freaking out and going into full defensive mode while losing probes, and he was struggling to deal with the adepts. But once he realized that, he just went across the map and ended it.
Yeah.
And maybe Super could have held that if he microed a little bit better or prepared better for the storms, but adepts move slowly overall compared to like a stimmed marine. It's really hard to split against storms with that. I mean, you almost can't. So I think you're very correct about, like, this could be the next evolution of AoE damage to deal with adepts as we move beyond Blink Stalkers.
Yeah. And I think it will specifically, work on maps like that, like Cross Spawns Frost, because keep in mind, Super had a much bigger army for a long time, and that's what happens when you go into Storm. It is so expensive, it takes a long time to get there. So, in the mid-game, it's really shaky to get there, and I understand why we haven't seen it all that much more, because it's like in specific, perfect spots. It's awesome, In a perfect world, if you had Storm against all the adept pushes, it would be great. But getting there is the hard part. And Classic kind of found a map and a position to do it in, and it looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, Storm drops are so risky that you even have to hide your Temple Archives. It's not like if the Temple Archives get scouted, you lose, but the other player can prepare for drops, be aware of that, and then also knows that he has an attack window because you committed so much gas to this. 400 gas plus 2 Templar, that's 300 more. That's 700 gas that you're going into these 2 Templar that killed 9 probes initially. And that's the other thing about this too, which I think further highlights your point, is he only dropped once. He only dropped with a Storm one time. I'm just trying not to laugh about the guy on the camera. This is becoming a trend.
Here we go again.
He only dropped once, and then he was just using the Storms as part of his comp. I think that was the plan all along. I think you're absolutely right, and this is kind of cool. I'm not sure why we're not having our next reveal, but it's going to happen soon.
We'll get there eventually. I mean, I'll be very curious to see if we're going to be seeing that kind of style on other maps, like what other maps we could potentially see it on at all. Thinking about other big maps, like New Gettysburg is kind of big, but it does have that one path, so maybe if you could defend the bridge while going for storm drops or something like that,
possible, yeah.
Your third base is very far away from the opponent. They need to go along the top side, and also by air, it's pretty close, so your drops can get in there fast.
I think maybe even like those GSL maps, like Rex Shear, possibly. I mean, it's not a Pro League map, and it's a GSL League-specific map, but definitely possible to see.